How often do you catch yourself living your life on autopilot? If you're like most of us, you might spend way more time unconsciously going through the motions of life rather than being present to your surroundings, your feelings, and your circumstances. But I think most of us believe that if something profound happened to us, it would change us forever, make us exist in perpetual gratitude and presence. Turns out, that's not exactly true. Jackie Pflug survived something that when you hear her tell it, you won't believe she lived to tell. And yet, even she fell back into autopilot.
And I started to live my life on cruise control and autopilot instead of living in the moment and paying attention to my surroundings. Life became pretty hard. Being a mom and a wife and working, and so instead of, it didn't need to be hard, it's just that I made it hard, and I started to live on cruise control. And that can be very dangerous, by the way.
Hi, I'm Dana Del Val, author, TEDx speaker, and visibility coach for leaders ready to affect change and become audaciously visible. On this podcast, I sit down with leaders from across backgrounds to explore the space where curiosity, connection, and progress meet, especially in a polarized world. Welcome to Brave Middle Ground. Jackie, welcome to Brave Middle Ground.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I'm really happy to have you. Let's jump right in and get to this conversation. I'm going to ask you the question I ask everyone, which is, how do you define middle ground from whatever perspective you would like to take it from?
I define middle ground by living in balance. So it comes in the form of balance, saying yes to opportunities that uplift me, saying no to opportunities that bring me down, but opportunities that uh, put a spring in my step, laughing often, and connecting with others, and listening to the inner
Mm.
voice that is inside of us.
Mm.
And also,
Mhm.
part of that is setting boundaries.
Interesting. So we'll jump into all of that, but I want to read just a little section from your book, Wake Up. It's time to say yes to creating a life worth loving. Here's the cover if you're watching the video. Really one of the most beautiful, joyful covers I've ever seen. If this were outward facing in a bookstore, I would stop to look at it because it's so beautiful, Jackie.
Oh,
I love the cover.
oh, thank you so
Oh,
much.
yes, absolutely. Okay, so this is from the beginning of chapter 9, Awakening Self-Priority, Charting a New Course. You say, I know it's time to start putting my needs first instead of putting other people's needs first every time. I want to trust that good will come my way instead of being afraid of life hurting me. I'm going to stand up for myself instead of being afraid of hurting the feelings of others. I want to prioritize myself. I choose to be with people that align with my values. However, I still have people in my life who don't align with my values, and that's okay. It's not my job to change others. It is my job to stand up for myself. At age 69, I'm just starting to shape my life from this point forward. When I'm around other people that don't align with my values, I can feel it inside. It's like a soft, tiny little nudge that something doesn't feel right. Sometimes I can't put my finger on it, but I can feel it in my gut. My hope is that this book will inspire you to look at your life through a different lens and learn to love all versions of yourself and know the best is yet to come. So that, I think, really sums up what you just described as middle ground. But I'm I'm really curious to know how you got to this place um, of feeling like, all right, it's time for me to take care of myself, in AA parlance, to put on my oxygen mask first, to own what I want and who I want to be, even if it's at the expense of the people in my life. Can you talk about that, Jackie?
How I got there? Oh,
Yeah.
I think it's just it's just learning over the years, and falling down as well, and being hurt. And so it comes, I think, with wisdom. It comes with time, and it comes with age. Now, when I was in my 30s, or when I was 30, I went through a hijacking and shot in the head. And I thought that was going to teach me a little bit about putting myself first. But as time went on, went back to my old ways and trying to please others, and uh, wanting others to love me and like me. And so by doing that, I put myself last, and I put myself in danger. And so over the years, this last 2 years have been very challenging for me, letting go of some important relationships that didn't serve me and didn't uplift me, instead of doing the opposite. And so I started to decide to say yes to myself, saying yes to love, saying yes to people that wanted me to win, and I wanted to win. I wanted them to win back. Surround myself with those kind of people, people that laughed often, and because I wanted to laugh, and I wanted people to be around people that wanted the best for me as I wanted the best for them. And so I think it's just practice and practice and practice, and um, also being around those that were able to see me and give me advice. I have a really good friend, and I would suggest that um, people do that, is find someone, a confidant, to really, really talk to someone that can give you good advice over the years. And my friend Mark LeBlanc did that for me, and has
Mhm.
for probably 25 years, when I feel like things are wishy-washy, and where I want to get back into alignment. Takes time
Okay, and practice.
and practice. Yeah. I
Yeah.
heard someone say once, what's good for one person is good for the next,
Mhm.
meaning the choices that we make that affect others will eventually be good for them, even though they may not know that right away. And that actually kept me going. That I kept thinking about that comment that someone said.
So you very casually just dropped this fact about your past. Like I might say, well, I went to the grocery store yesterday. You said I was in a hostage situation and was shot in the head.
I know.
So I don't mean to laugh at it because there's nothing laughing about it. But I know that you have written a book about it, Jackie. But can you just give us the Reader's Digest version of that story? Because you went on to say something that I found really interesting, but we'll talk about that after you tell us
Right.
about this.
Well, I brought that up because you'd think that when you really get whopped upside the head, that you go, okay, I'm going to pay attention to life, and I'm not going to live life on cruise control anymore or autopilot. I'm going to be present in the moment. But that wasn't the case for me. I did learn a lot from being a hostage and shot in the head. However, I got back to my old way of living, which is sometimes not always telling the truth, not being honest. And so I had an opportunity to change that, and I got back into the old way of living. And so I mention that because you think that I would be able to see the good in all of that. And so it took me another 40 years to, when I got woken up again, letting go of a 29-year marriage. And so that's kind of what woke me up again. And so instead of, getting back to my old ways, I make sure that I make a commitment every day to put me first, to be still, to be quiet, and like I mentioned earlier, set boundaries, and uh, do things that uplift me, and let go of things that bring me down. So back to the hijacking of Egypt Air 648 and November the 23rd and 24th of 1985, which is about 40 years ago. So that anniversary will be coming up this in a couple of
In
weeks.
about 10 days. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I was 30 years old when that happened. I was living overseas, teaching at the Cairo American College, and living out my dream of teaching and being, overseas and living amongst the people. It wasn't back for me back then. It wasn't enough just to travel. I wanted to live amongst the people. I don't know why, but it was really important. And I had a teaching degree, and so I had applied to different overseas schools, American schools. The year before, I was in Norway at Stavanger,
Mhm.
and the next year, I was in Cairo at the Cairo school. And one particular weekend, I was married to Scott Pflug at the time, and he was coaching a volleyball team. And he had already gone with the team, and I decided to follow the next day when I got off work. And I was there with the team, and on my way back, about 4 days later, um, we were hijacked by the Egypt Revolution. And uh, I remember um, what I was doing, what I was wearing, what I was like back then. I had just put on these headphones. I can't remember what we had back then, whether it was an iPod or
Oh, I
something.
bet it was a
And
I bet it was a Walkman. It wouldn't have been an
uh,
iPod in 1985. I bet you had a Walkman, Jackie.
yeah, that's probably what it was. And I was putting in Bruce Springsteen's latest release, Born in the USA, and his movie's out now. So I just thought it was. So my son Tanner, who's 28, said, "Mom, that was the first song that you heard on the hijacking, and I wanted to take you to that movie of Born in
Yeah.
the USA." So we're going to do that anyway. Uh, there were. Three hijackers, and they call themselves the Egypt Revolution. And within a few hours, they had taken our passports, and there were two sky marshals on board. We didn't know it. They were armed, and uh, we had to give up our passports one by one. Instead of giving up his passport, this Marshall, he pulled out a gun. So there became a big gun battle up in the air. And oxygen masks came down, and we dropped actually in the sky, and because we had depressurized. And eventually we landed in an island in the Mediterranean in Malta. And that is a very interesting whole story. That whole hijacking is a very interesting story of um, events that took place and lessons learned. And the pilot uh, wanted to he wanted to take the plane, and when we were landing in Malta, he wanted to push it really hard. We landed really, really hard. He was trying to deflate the tires so we couldn't go anywhere, because sometimes
Oh.
um, that's a that's even more brutal to the hostages on board when they are taken to another place, because you never know what's going to happen after that. So he was very unsuccessful with that, unfortunately. And then once we landed, eventually the hijackers' demands was that they fuel the engines so they could take us somewhere else. And uh, the hijackers decided that they were going to start shooting people one by one, first with the Israelis and then with the Americans. There were two Israelis on board and three Americans. And eventually, my turn was to come up to the front, and I felt the gun to my head. And at first, I thought I would throw him down, push him down, and then throw my body down the uh, 25-foot metal staircase that was in front of me. Um, but something inside of me, this inner voice, um, said, "Be still. You're going to be okay. You just need to be still." And I thought, where's that coming from? And then that's when he pulled the trigger, and I felt like my eyes had gone to the back of my head, and I felt like I was floating, but really I was hitting the staircase. And I laid on the tarmac for about 5 hours, and going in and out of consciousness and in and out of sleep. And eventually, the hijackers had allowed the medics to come take away the other bodies on the runway in exchange for food. And so when it was my turn, they brought me inside the, they dragged me along and brought me inside the ambulance. And they had me facing face down. Now, I still think I'm with the hijackers. I thought, what are they doing now? Why aren't they happy with what they did? Uh, I thought I was with the hijackers, but I was really with the medics. And we were in the ambulance on the way to the morgue. Um, and then one of the men flipped me over because he didn't like seeing the gunshot wound on my head. And when he flipped me over onto my back, I gasped for air, and they start screaming, "She's alive! She's alive!" And I thought, well, these don't sound like the hijackers' voices. So I said, "Are you guys the good guys or the bad guys?" And he said, "Honey, we're the medics, and you're going to be okay." And we went to the hospital, and eventually I was went under surgery and to remove the bullet. Now, when you get shot in the head, you never come out the same as you went in. Uh, so there was a lot of things. I have partial vision now. Like I only see pieces of your face, up, left, and bottom of both eyes. Visual acuity is missing. A visual is missing, and had epilepsy. I couldn't tell time anymore. I didn't know how to count money anymore. I knew how to count. I just didn't know what it meant. So I didn't know what a quarter meant. I didn't know what a penny meant. And then someone said, well, there's 2 2 o'clocks. Don't forget there's 2 2 o'clocks. Well, what do people do at 2 o'clock when the light's out? And what do people do at 2 o'clock when it's dark outside? So I had to learn what that meant and how to tell time. And there were other things. I had epilepsy. So I'm on a medicine now, Tegretol XR, that has allowed me to go through life without having a seizure. Now, it's a band-aid, just like a lot of medicines that we take are band-aids, but they're miracle band-aids. Because
Mm,
as a young mom, when I had my son Tanner, I just saw pieces of him, which is really sad for me. Uh, but for me to know that I can change his diaper or drive without having a seizure, that's a big deal for me
yeah.
and for other people. And so I came back to living life again and trying to maneuver through that. And nobody really has a um, a book on how to get out, how to survive a hijacking, or how to survive coming back from big trauma of this kind. I'm sure there are, but this was big trauma. So uh, I fumbled my way through and made sure that I went into a therapist about 3 times a week. Trauma or of any kind of trauma, or sometimes even disappointments, can take us out of our game,
Mm,
can take us out of being able to make choices of who we want to be and who we want to become. And it can also cause us to implode and be bitter.
mm,
So it
yeah.
was important to me to be around those people that could help me out, those people that could give me advice and show me the way out. I really wanted someone to take me by the hand and show me the way out. And by way out, I mean how to smile again, how to laugh again, how to be this Jackie that I believe is happy-go-lucky, uh, and so that's I wrote a book, not the book that you have picked up because that's my latest book, but the book that I wrote is called Miles to Go Before I Sleep, and I talk about that book, and I talk in that book I talk about the lessons learned and how I came out, and then
Well,
go
thank you
ahead.
for sharing all of that, Jackie. I want to acknowledge that um, it's it's almost inconceivable to listen to you tell this story and realize this is your lived experience. And so I appreciate you sharing it with us because, you know, I imagine that it's re-traumatizing to tell the story. So thank you for giving us that version of it. I just felt like we couldn't talk without you giving us some piece of that because it's such an extraordinary thing that you survived, that you remember so much about it. The whole thing is like a film to listen to you tell it. So I just want to acknowledge my gratitude for you sharing it.
Thank you. That's very kind. I haven't shared that story in a long, long time. Um, I ended up sharing it a few years later, and it it launched a 25-year career in motivational speaking for me. And I told the story, but it wasn't just telling the story; it was about telling lessons learned and what I learned. And I even share what I was what I was doing before I was shot and how I put people in front of me to say goodbye. And I started thinking about my life and even though I was proud of it and things that I did and choices that I made, there were things that I wasn't so proud of. And so I talked about that. And then 2011, I decided to let go of that career and started to stay home more because that career kind of, I was sometimes in 2 to 3 states in a week. Um,
Hmm.
and so I wanted to be at home more with my son. And I wanted to be available to my dad who had Alzheimer's. So in
Hmm.
2011, I let go and stopped working. And and during that time, I got lost. Um, I was happy that I was spending my time with my son and my dad, and my dad's in Houston, so I would fly every 30 days. I would fly down to see him and hang out with him and get to know him even better. And somewhere along the line in those years, I got lost and I didn't know it. And I got I started to live my life on cruise control and autopilot instead of living in the moment and paying attention to my surroundings. Life became pretty hard. Um, being a mom and a wife and working and uh, so instead of, it didn't need to be hard, it's just that I made it hard and I started to live on cruise control. And that can be very dangerous, by the way, because you're not in the moment. You're not paying attention to your surroundings. You're missing a lot. And I want to say I was missing a lot. Um, and then something happened years later. My nephews, my Marshall and
Hmm.
Owen, who were 8 and 6 back then. You've read the book, so you know the
I have read the
story.
book. I do know the story. Please tell it.
Um, I told my nephew Michael, they live in Austin, Texas, that when the boys became old enough, that I wanted them to come stay with me in Minnesota for about a week. And at age 8 and 6, he said he thought they were ready. Couldn't even imagine. I wasn't even ready to do something like that when I was 20, much less 8 and 6. I said, really? I was so excited. And um, He said, yeah. And so he flew them down. And the first time I decided I was going to really make them so busy and so happy that they did not want to go home because they were homesick.
Mm-hmm.
And so that first year was really important. I had a list of things to do, and we did two things a day. And if we stopped and got lunch, that wasn't one of the things.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had the best time that year, and they didn't ask to go home. And that's also when I started to look at my life a little bit more. Uh, I was working so hard to make sure that they would be happy and we would have a good time, them and my son. And uh, someone said to me, "This will never work. This will never work. You'll never be able to pull this off." And I started to listen to uh, this and started to think, why am I surrounding myself with people that do this for me? I was making it okay. Uh, and I would just say back, I said, I think this can work. But I was surrounding myself with people and noticed that there were people in my life that were doing this. And did I really want this? And that's why it takes time when you first talked at the beginning, this stuff takes time because you sort of wake up. You sort of wake up to some of this, and sometimes you don't wake up fast enough or um,
Mm.
soon enough. And for me, it was a long time for me to wake up, but I started to wake up during that time. And then they came for a week, and then they came for 2 weeks, and we were every year they came back, and then one year one of them had COVID, and it stopped us in our tracks, and I started to cry and cry. They had to go back home. And I started to try to find out why I was crying so much. And it felt like this was a different cry. Felt like this was a cry of, please listen to me. My inner voice was screaming for me to find a way out, to find a way to where I could find joy again and laugh again. And so this began my 2 year journey of finding my way out, of getting off of cruise control and finding my way out. And that's when I started to write this book about, first of all, it was just about stories that I've experienced
Mm-hmm.
because I always felt I had another book in me, but I didn't know what it was. And I
Mm-hmm.
talk about that in the preface. I'm talking to my chiropractor one day, and he and I were talking about stories, and I'm talking to him about the story of Riadosa when I went to Riadosa with my girlfriend Barb. We were both working on our masters at that particular summer, and her parents had a cabin up in Riadosa, New Mexico for the summer. So we stopped everything and went up there and to tell him the story. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to tell these stories. I'm going to tell these stories of things that I've experienced over time. There must have been, I don't know, how many are there? 20 maybe of these stories that I've experienced over time. And then this transformation that I started to go through of coming out of being lost, wanted to get in there as well. So
Yeah.
I put it in there, and that's what it
So,
is.
Jackie, um how did you sort of find yourself lost in the first place? And maybe I need to give a little preface to that question. Were you were you raised to be a people pleaser like so many of us are, and so you just never stopped to think about yourself, or was it something? I mean, was it the hijacking? Was it a series of things? How did you find yourself in that position in the first place?
I don't know. I just kind of got to the old way of thinking, or the old way of living, which is not living in the moment, not paying attention to my surroundings, not listening to my inner voice to let it guide me. It was so deep buried in there that I um, couldn't hear it anymore. And I was, and you know, as as a mom, as a working person, as a um, people pleaser, and I don't know whether it was all of that and wanting to put others before myself, but I got lost, and I don't think that I would have woken up if that hadn't happened with the boys, where one of
Mm,
them got COVID and went home, and the crying started, and I had to find out what this crying was. It was deeper than all my other cries, and I'm not much of a crier, so when this happened, and I could not stop, so I went to a retreat center. So I kept
mm,
thinking, where am I going to go? How am I going to get help with this? Who am I going to turn to? And because I knew I had to understand it. And so I had decided to go to this retreat center that all of a sudden I was getting emails from out of the blue, but always wanted to go, but always put it off. See, that's
mm,
part of it too, is putting off, putting off, putting off. I'm going to go there. Nah, another time. I'm going to do this. Another time. Uh, I'm too busy right now. I'm being a mom. I want to be present with my son. I'm doing this. I'm a wife, and uh, but I had to do something. It was stopping me. And I went to this retreat center and I started to learn a few things and came back very quiet and balanced, and still then got back into my old way of thinking, old way of living, uh, autopilot. And then the next year, the following year, 12 months later, I go back and then I learn more about staying balanced again, about being in the moment, about taking care of myself. And I come back and make changes. Where the year before I didn't come back and make changes. This year I came back and made changes. Changes, and mostly to let go of people that didn't believe in me, but I kept spending my time with them, and started to do things that were kind of not me, which is setting boundaries and finding things that make me feel full of joy.
What do you think was the turning point between the first year and the second year, moving from feeling to doing?
I think it had to do with me getting off of cruise control and listening to people. And when I was hearing some things at this retreat center, like, why are you spending time with people who are critical? Uh, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And when I started to hear that, and then I started to get a way to be able to find my boundaries. Then I came back and started to make changes. And I think it was just me being tired. Let's see. It was me being exhausted, exhausted, and I don't know. I got an armor. Somehow I got this armor uh, uh, that I grew when I was at that retreat center. Somehow, of you know what, enough is enough. I'm not going to be spending time anymore with people that are negative, that throw me under the bus time and time again, and I let them.
Hmm.
I'm going to make choices to come out of this. And it was little by little, and it was hard. This stuff is not easy. It
Mm.
was hard. And so eventually, little by little, as time went on, and I wrote this book, and I put this journey of me with this woman, that Michelle Fraley, who I worked with as a counselor, as a therapist. I worked together, and it is phenomenal. This second book I'm so proud of. It's called Wake Up, which is what I did. It's time to say yes to creating a life worth loving. And so there are stories in there. It's chock full of stories of how to create a life worth loving, ideas, comments. Um, it's I just love this book. It woke me up to life. This whole transformation woke me up to life, and I really changed everything. I changed the car that I drove. I changed the clothes that I wore. I changed the people that I was around. I changed the music that I listened to. I let go of sitting in front of a TV and being out with nature, being out with people. Learn to listen to others, accept people just as they are, and uh, it was quite the journey. And now I feel like I'm on the other side, and I feel like life is really great.
Can you give us two or three tips or tricks that you used? And you just talked about changing your clothes and your music, and I was really fascinated by that in the book, that you literally went from listening to one decade and era and style of music to a completely different decade, era, and style of music. Why was that important for you, Jackie?
It just happened. It wasn't that it was important to me. It just happened. It's like, okay, this is boring. This music that I'm listening to, uh, 70s and 80s music is all I listened to, and I loved it. It brought me joy. I loved it, loved it, loved it. But I went through this transformation of really um, sort of working on my life. And then I don't know, I woke up and all of a sudden, this music, as sweet as it is, as wonderful as it is, um, I feel like I needed to catch up uh, and not be stuck. And
Mm.
so I started to listen to Michael Fraley and Pink and some of these artists that were exciting and fun and uplifting music, and Train. And so I'm just crazy about the music here. And people that know me can't believe it. Like, yeah, she was always stuck in the 70s and 80s. And it could be, just this whole idea of me being stuck uh, in this life that I created, I chose for myself. Mm, yeah.
How did the people who are still in your life, your son and other people who have maintained close relationships with you, how did they react to this evolution of you? Because I think a lot of people are afraid to make seismic personal shifts, afraid that they'll lose close relationships or lose meaningful people in their life.
Yeah, that can happen. That did happen to me. It did happen. It can. Uh, But I kept going back to that saying at the beginning of our talk, what's good for one person is good for the next. And it's not easy because in my case, I was letting go of a marriage that was important to me and I had built my life around. And, but, you know, it had to be, it had, I didn't want it to let it go. I just wanted to change what we were doing. And that was not the option for me. So
Mm.
there was an option of having to let go. Um, Now, just a few minutes ago, you mentioned about what the readers could do, and I did want
Yeah.
to say that. So, I got this from someone years ago, not years ago, about a year ago, and when I wake up in the morning, I sit on the edge of my bed. Before you turn on your phone, before you check your phone, before you get onto your computer, before you make any phone calls, sit on the edge of your bed or in a chair uh, and say this 3 times. Today, I believe that something wonderful is going to happen to me. Today,
Mm.
I believe that something wonderful is going to happen to me. 3 times, and then go about your day. Turn on your phone, get on your computer, and go about your day. And then also, going back to that question that you had asked, I would suggest that people that are listening to um, look at their surroundings, pay attention to what they're doing, live in the moment. Um, as you're drinking your coffee, let's taste it, smell it, be with it. When you go outside, if you're in warmth weather, feel the sun. It's about being in the moment and not letting yourself go back into or go into autopilot because we all
Hmm.
have busy days. And then also in the book, and the book full is chocked again full of not only stories but ideas of how to be able to live a life worth loving. It is
Hmm.
it's amazing what my work with Michelle Fraley was. It was groundbreaking for me to journal and to do some of the things that she asked me to do. But one of the things we did, she said, find 3 to 5 things daily that you do to keep yourself balanced. And so I have 3 things. In the book, I put 5, but I have now narrowed it down to 3. And because a couple of them, they kind of come and go and they work and they don't work. So the 3 that I do is I uh, listen to this rose protection meditation, and I talk about that in the book.
Yeah.
And then I take my supplements for the day, and then I lay on this spunk mat that
Mm-hmm.
I bought years ago for 30 minutes at night before I go to bed. And I do it faithfully, and it helps keep me balanced. And then I would suggest that people somehow get quiet every day. Get quiet. Sit in a chair 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 20 minutes, and just listen and ask yourself questions. What am I to know today? I am struggling with this. What am how can I get through this? And listen to the messages that come through you, because the only way that you're going to hear it is if you get quiet.
Yeah, I talk a lot about that in my own life and work as well. We don't sit nearly enough in quiet. We always have earbuds in. We're always trying to optimize
Yeah.
time. So we're listening to a podcast while we're out for a walk in nature, or whatever we're doing, we're trying to multitask. And
Yeah.
I'm a real believer that the universe, God, the angels, whatever you think of, cannot get to you when you are compounding the noise in your life.
Right.
And I
That's a
think
good point.
it's just vitally important to be in quiet, even when it's uncomfortable, probably especially when it's uncomfortable.
Hmm. Yes, yes. Very true. Very true.
Jackie, what do you know today that you didn't know the first 70 years of your life?
That I'm stronger than I think I am, that I'm smarter than I think I am, and I'm full of kindness and love. And I didn't believe that before, but I do now. Yeah.
That's fantastic and such a beautiful benediction, both for the book, for your journey, and for this conversation. And I want to say to anybody listening, everything Jackie just said about herself, I think is true of you too. You are stronger
Oh,
than you think you are. You are worthy of love. You can do more than you believe you can do. And you have the privilege to get to pursue this very present, not at all on autopilot life. So, my recommendation is get on it. What are you waiting for?
what are you waiting for? Right. Right.
Yeah. Jackie, thank you so much for
Oh,
joining me. I
you're
really
welcome.
enjoyed hearing your story, and
Yeah.
I know my audience will too. And I just wish you terrific luck going forward. You could have 30 more years of this new joyful present life, Jackie.
I
How thrilling
can.
is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. And also, I just finished writing a journal to go with Wake Up.
Oh,
Because we talk
fantastic.
about journaling I talk
Yeah.
about journaling inside of Wake Up. Yeah. It should be out in December on Amazon. Thank you so
Well, that's
much for having me.
fantastic.
This has been
I
such a
really
treat.
appreciate it.
Yeah, you made my day. Thank you.
Well, you've made mine, Jackie. Thank you. And to everyone else, we'll talk soon. Thanks for joining me on Brave Middle Ground. I hope today's conversation inspired you to be audaciously visible and embrace the power of the in-between as you lead in your business, your community, and your life. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your network. Your support grows our community and keeps these meaningful conversations going. To learn more about Audaciously Visible coaching and support with me, head to danadelval.com for free resources, upcoming events, and ways to work with me. Brave Middle Ground is mixed by Sound Advice, and our music is by Quinn Del Val. Until next time, I'm Dana Del Val. Stay curious, stay courageous, and stay connected.